it's Angel Vane, and this is episode 93 of my author's diary. I am an author of crime thrillers for women, and every week I take you through the ups and downs that I go through as I try to write and publish new books. So don't forget to subscribe or follow me if you haven't done so already. This week, we have come to the end of the road. Although we've come to the end of the road. Yes, I am done with my series, Hero in Paradise series. It is finito. It is done. Files are all sent, ready to be published on April 13th of this year. So less than a month away, the book will be out into the world, available for everybody to read. I'm super excited about this journey that I went on to write a 4-book series. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about this week, is everything that I did, my process, the journey I went through, the process, what I learned, what I would do differently, and what's up next for Angel Vane now that, the Hero in Paradise series is over. So first, I'm going to think back on the journey of writing the 4-book series. When I first wrote The Accidental Hero, and it got published in June of 2019, when I wrote it, I had an inkling in the back of my head that Julian and Mina's story isn't done, but I really wrote it as a standalone novel. That's it, it's done. Had an HEA, bad guy got caught. It was supposed to be finished. But there was just more that I wanted to experience with those characters. And so I decided to turn it into a series. And really, when I decided to turn it into a series, the only thing that I knew was that I needed 4 books, because I plotted out my novel with the 4-act structure. And so I was a little concerned that I wouldn't be able to figure out what should be happening in the books if I just wrote a trilogy. But if I wrote 4 books, then each book would be an act in the overarching series, and that in my head made sense. But I had no clue. I had absolutely no clue how the story was going to unfold. I knew I wanted to be 4 books. I knew how I wanted the 4th book in the series to end. I knew how I wanted the bad guy to get got. And that has not changed. And so when you read The Unexpected Hero, and the way the bad guy goes down is exactly what I thought and what I wanted way back in the summer of 2019, when I had decided to even make this a 4-book series. So that never changed and never wavered. But I really did not know how I was going to get from point A to B to C to D to the end of the entire series when I decided to write one. And so it's been a really amazing journey. And when I stop and look back at all the different things that I took Julian and Mina through, I'm just amazed. I'm where did I get some of this stuff, right? And so it's really interesting to look back at some of the old notes that I had written with different ideas of things that could happen in the story, and to see how I completely deviated from that, but ended up with 4 books that I'm just so proud of. And I'm really, really just I really like the stories. I really love the stories. And I'm happy for them to be out there to give other people an escape and entertainment, and to, give you something to get lost in for just a little bit, to be cast away into my little corner of the Palm Chat Islands and the story of Julian and Mina. And not only am I excited for it to be your escape, but looking back on 2020 and the craziness that we all have been experiencing of 2020, having these novels to write and to kind of lose myself in this world that I had complete control over, that helped to bring a certain level of sanity to my life as I went through all the upheaval of 2020. And I really enjoyed having that as an escape for myself, right? So writing it became an escape, and then I hope it becomes an escape and entertainment for you as well. I had spent so much time writing that first book. It took 24 months to write, and the fact that I was able to plot out and plan the next 3 books in the series and pretty much stick to my plan, pretty much stick to my schedule, it's amazing to me, but I know that I stuck to it because that was my escape from the foolishness of 2020. I want to make sure that I can keep that up as things start to get back to normal and things, with the world, and we're able to go back to doing the stuff that, we used to do before COVID-19, like halted the whole planet. But I hope that I'm able to keep up this regiment that I've created and this plan that I create to write novels and to write them faster than what I've been writing them before. Now, do I think that I'll be one of these people who can write a book a month? No. Because she got a day job, right? And my day job, I'm not one of those where it's I can work on my lunch break, or I can, write on my lunch break, or I can write during this and write during this time when I'm at work. No, when I'm at work and I'm on the grind, for all them hours of the work day. So it really is about carving out the 1 to 2 hours after work, after I get home, and then the extra maybe 3 or 4 hours I can carve out on the weekends to try to keep on track of all of the different novel ideas that I have that are percolating now that I am at the end of the road for Julian Montgomery and Mina Nixon, the Hero in Paradise series. So just to kind of recap the process that I went through to write this series. Like I mentioned, I knew the story arc for the series. I planned it based off of the 4-act structure. So each book represented one act of the 4-act structure. So book 1 was really my inciting event. Book 2 was going from passive to active. Book 3 was getting Julian and Mina to their all is lost moment. And then book 4 is the ultimate triumph over the bad guy. The other thing that I really tried to focus on is building a very interesting world that really tapped into the beauty and the fun and the essence of the Caribbean islands, and not just Caribbean islands, but just any island that I have gone to. I really leveraged the culture and the people that I met there and really tried to give it an essence of that experience with every book that I wrote. And really, so many of the places that I put into each of the 4 books were based off of my travels and places that I have actually been to. So you can point to a scene and I can say, oh yeah, that's based off of this particular place on the Big Island in Hawaii, or this is based off of this area in Bermuda, or this is based off of this place in Jamaica. So I really did capture and try to bring in the essence that I experience when I go to islands on vacation, and hope that anybody who's from an island, that's why I made up my own fictional island, so that I wouldn't tick anybody off about putting murder and mayhem in their island. But I hope that island people can kind of get the sense of that kind of vibe that I try to create from an outsider's kind of perspective. And so I do, most of my characters are not islanders. They're people who have come to the island and decided to stay at the island, just so I can kind of still have that connection. Because again, I'm not from the Caribbean. I didn't grow up on the island. But and some of that may change as I do a little more research and interact with more people from the islands, to have more main characters who are islanders. And again, it's my own fake island, so I can make my own fake island culture that is loosely based off of what I have discerned from the cultures of the different islands I have gone to. And then the other thing that I really try to focus on is developing rich 3-dimensional characters who are not just black and white characters, not all good, not all bad, but all up in the gray in between, and not just limiting that to Julian and Mina, trying to make them fully fleshed out in 3-dimensional characters, but also to the secondary characters. So I spent a lot of time with Mina's, her sidekicks, her best friends, Regina and Omar, and really trying to flesh those characters out. And then Julian with his backstory and all of his interactions with Sunny and with Broman and with Kendrick, really trying to make Sunny, Broman, and Kendrick just as fully fleshed out characters as I had spent making Julian. And then, from Bojan and then Xander and all the different characters that I brought in my bad guy characters, from To Be Kara to Priscilla to Quentin Tufa to, Irving Vaughn, all the bad guys. I really wanted to flesh them out and not make them all bad, but really to for you to kind of be you know what? I don't agree with what you're doing, but I understand how you think. I've gotten enough information about the crazy mindset that you have and why you feel justified to do the foolishness that you're doing. And so really I tried to make really great characters who my bad guys, they had people that they cared about. They weren't just diabolical, bad, evil people, but they actually had family members and people that they actually cared about, that they would, do whatever it took to try to protect and to save, even though they were creating mayhem in other people's lives, right? So yeah, go figure. So really it was about trying to present really fully fleshed out characters that were three-dimensional, great characters that each had some good and some bad within them, just to try to make the storyline that much richer and that much more interesting for the story. The other thing that was really important to me was to try to show the growth of my two main characters, Julian and Mina. I didn't want people to read the accidental hero and then get to the unexpected hero and be like, Julian hadn't learned. He's still doing this thing that's frustrating me. No, I wanted you to see that he has actually grown and learned from all the experiences through the book. And the Julian that you see, battling in book 4 and towards the end of book 4 has come a long way from the Julian that you first met as he was, drinking on his boat in that first scene in The Accidental Hero. And the same thing with Mina. I want you to see that, like, the choices that Mina made in The Accidental Hero, that she has grown and developed, and she's making better choices now in The Unexpected Hero, and doing some things that may surprise you because it's not how she had handled things in the past, but she's actually learned from those experiences, and she's actually making different choices in The Unexpected Hero to show that she has actually grown and developed as a person. And so, that was really important to me, to show the character growth throughout the series as well, because they go through some really bad stuff, and it's like, if you're not growing and changing from that, like, what's wrong with you? You need to grow and change. So the last thing I wanted to work on was progressively ramping up the badness of my villains. And so I really wanted to, make sure that as you read each book, you're not like, well, this threat didn't seem like it was as bad as that threat that they, experienced 2 books ago. I really wanted each villain to be progressively worse, so that you really get the sense that, okay, things are like, the danger is getting worse and worse and worse as I go through with each book. And so when I got to book 4, even though Priscilla has been in the background kind of pulling the strings along the way, it was time for her to shine and for you to really see how diabolical and awful she really is. And so I did some really heinous things, and sometimes I was like, oh my God, Priscilla is like bonkers. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, like, she's bonkers, right? And authors tell you this all the time, like, the stories come to us, right? So it's like, I wasn't sitting here thinking, oh, Priscilla's gonna do this and Priscilla's gonna do that. It's like she kind of dictated her behavior onto the page. And I'm like, you are evil. As she kind of like, no, this is what I'm doing, and now I'm gonna do this, and now I'm gonna do that. Like, she kind of just took over and really showed me how bad she really was. And I just had to, like, put that on the paper. And I know it sounds crazy, but talk to a bunch of other authors. Like, we all kind of have that same experience. And so that was really important, I think, for me to feel like that I was really doing the entire series justice, is to progressively ramp up the danger and the threat to Julian and Mina with every book, until the book 4, you're just like, oh my goodness. How are they going to get out of this, right? That's what I want you to feel. But again, it's romantic suspense, so this is not really a spoiler alert when I tell you that, yes, they will prevail in the end, right? You just need to read to see what happens to them, how low do they have to go, and then how do they actually end up prevailing in the end. So that kind of covers my process that I went through as I wrote the series. Now I'm going to jump to the one thing that I would do differently. And that is, I needed to have started a world Bible, a series Bible from the very beginning. Can I tell you how crazy it was as I started writing, the Fallen Hero and then into the Unexpected Hero, and like literally have no memory of some of the stuff that I had put in the book that was important, that I was about to jack up if I hadn't gone back to check, right? And so if I had created the series Bible and the World Bible as I was writing, probably right after I finished The Accidental Hero, I should have just set it up at that point and then kept it up as I wrote each of the subsequent books. That would have made my life so much easier. So as I start to think about what's next and what books I want to write next, I'm going to continue to write books in series. Because I just like that. And I think it's because I'm a soap opera girl, and soap operas are like the ultimate in series, right? They just continue and continue and continue and continue. You just keep, interacting with these same cast of characters and the families and all the different stories and stuff like that. So that part of a writing series really appeals to me as an avid soap opera watcher. And so I'm going to continue to write within this Palm Chat Islands world with the characters that I've already introduced and introduce some new characters. But I am going to set up that Bible like now with the new books. I have to make sure that I have that solidified and a process in place of how I'm going to update it as I write each of the subsequent books that are set in that same world. So that is high on my to-do list. What's next? What am I going to be moving to next? Well, I have a ton of spin-off ideas, right? So I'm thinking about, okay, Julian needs a job. And that's a way for me to spin him off into doing private security, because I do like the concept of doing the, special ops, romantic suspense books with the security firm, where I get a chance to have each book with a different set of characters who are falling in love and kind of going through some danger. And so the way I can spin that off is Julian gets a job working at some security firm, and now we're with his team here in the Caribbean, because I don't want to move him to Africa to be with the Tides people, right? He needs to stay in St. Basil with Mina. So he's gonna get, he's gonna finally get a job and start working. And so I'll probably have a security team for him. There'll be really more private security where I can keep that balance of interacting with the bad guys, not dealing too much with cops and all that kind of stuff. And then Tides is still there, and I still have this love affair with exploring the African continent, being set up in Kenya and kind of using that as a base, and being a little more military operative focused, kind of bringing in the African Special Forces that I brought in The Relentless Hero with Reggie Kamau, who is Sunny's on again, off again love interest, and all the rest of the Tides members. I definitely want to explore them and explore their stories. And then there's Kendrick, right? Because Kendrick don't fit into either one of those. He's my, never met a stranger, friendliest guy, best personality, boy next door, who is just so unlucky in love, right? And so I'm thinking something more cozy, mystery-ish for him. Again, I'm not too big on doing police procedurals, so probably will bring in an amateur sleuth, and Kendrick will be the police kind of a contact / love interest that we kind of go down the road and see how they end up together through the different mysteries that they solve and kind of helping each other. So I'm thinking something that's more cozy that'll help Kendrick kind of be catapulted off into his own set of stories with somebody. So that's 3 right there that I'm thinking of. And then I still want to write my sweet romances, my holiday sweet romances. I still want to go back to Sierra and Luke, who I did in my very first NaNoWriMo. They deserve to have their story told. And there's just something just so comforting about, a sweet romance that, I just really like that. And so I'm still going to be doing that as well. So those are kind of the ideas that are percolating, subject to change. All of that's subject to change, right? Because they're just the barest of a blade coming out of the ground from a seed that's been planted, right? It could morph into some other type of flower that I never expected. Who knows? But the very next thing that I'm working on, yeah, I have ended the series, and I truly, the Hero in Paradise series is truly ended with book 4. It is ended. It's done. All the stuff with Dumais and all that stuff, with the babysitting ring and all that kind of stuff, that is over and done. But there's some personal stuff between Julian and Mina that I did not get a chance to squeeze in to book 4. And I said, you know what? I am not about to write 150,000 word 4th book to try to squeeze this stuff in. But again, and I knew this for the past, couple of months. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to squeeze it all in, because from my outline, I knew I couldn't squeeze it in. And so I am writing the holiday romantic suspense. It will be a standalone book, so you won't have to have read anything that's in the Hero in Paradise 4-book series to read the standalone novel for Julian and Mina, but it will give me a chance to give them the ultimate ending that I want to give them, that I wasn't able to squeeze into book 4. But again, it'll be written like a standalone, so that you don't need to know anything that happened in the Hero in Paradise series to read that book. But if you have read the entire series, you'll get your ultimate HEA in the Holiday Romantic Suspense book after I put them through some new danger that I need to kind of think up at this point. So that is the very next thing I'm going to shift into writing. Again, it's already plotted, but as I finished off The Unexpected Hero, guess what? Changes. I got changes that I want to make to it. So the story is going to be different from what I've already started to plot and plan and stuff. So, but that's okay, because that's just my process. That's just the way I roll. Okay. Tae-bo style. That's a really bad Tae-bo. So that's it for me this week. That is a recap of the end of the road for the Hero in Paradise series. If you haven't started reading the series, go ahead and get started now. Book 4 will be out on April 13th. I know a lot of people don't like to start a series until they know it's completed because they don't want to wait for the books. Well, guess what? Last book is coming out on April 13th. If you haven't started reading the Hero in Paradise series, go out there, read it, give it a chance. It's a really good set of 4 books. I promise you're going to be entertained and like it. I have really good reviews out there on them, so just go out there and give it a chance. And that's it for this week. So if you want to continue to keep up with me and all the ups and downs that I go through as I try to write and publish new books, click the subscribe button. Then don't forget to click that little silver bell so you won't miss when I'm doing a video. And I will see you next time.